Hi family, Nombasa here, and welcome to my YouTube channel once again. And this episode, disclaimer, it might be a bit emotional for me, maybe for some people as well, but I just want to give you guys a heads up because it's I'm going to be talking about Kutheni, which is a song that very few people know, but I'm hoping that every person gets to know because I think it speaks about my story about being fatherless and having grown up without a father. I would say maybe this is part one of the story because there's a whole lot of background and things that have actually surfaced after. So sorry, it's quite an emotional song and it's bringing just different memories. But Kutheni, I wrote Kutheni. Whew, it was, I don't know why I'm so emotional, but Kutheni was written in 2011, 2012. I remember I stayed in a nice small bachelor flat here in East London, and so building up to that, just to give a background, I've always grown up knowing that there's, no one ever said it to me, never told me. I don't think it takes like a genius, to know sometimes, to know some things. You know who your father is, and I remember even my former stepdad, although he like played a bit of a role, later on in my life, but I knew he was not my father. But that was never, discussed. That was never a point of discussion. And I remember just having questions growing up, because as you know, a bit of my background, that I grew up in an extended family home, my grandmother's home. My mom worked out of town, and it was very, it was obvious, my cousins also. So such a funny thing that in my family, no one, there was such a sense of fatherlessness. Actually, almost all the females, my mom's sisters, they never married. My mom married later on in life, but also the marriage didn't really go well, and so there was a sense of fatherlessness, of people not knowing their dad. Either you didn't know your dad or you knew him, but it was just not a thing to have a relationship with him. And so I grew up with those kind of questions because even on Father's Day at school, there'd be, Father's Day cards, and we would, make a Father's Day card to our grandfather, and I mean, we always knew. And so when you're young, you don't question a lot of things, obviously. But I remember when I just really started getting irritated about this. It was just a nudge in me because I think throughout high school there was just questions. I remember I was 19. I think that year I was going to turn 20. I'd come back from varsity from home for holidays, and I asked my mom, what happened to my father? And it was so random. My mom just broke out in tears, and that was the beginning of sort of opening up for her. But she never opened up, with the whole story of what had happened, but she summarized it to me. And later on in the years, there's things that I discovered that, yes, it was painful that she left. It was, for me even, it robbed me of having a father. But in essence, it was the better decision. When you've got worst case scenario, both options are like, if I stay, this is going to mess up my child and it's going to mess up my relationships. And if I go, either way, but going, leaving and exiting the situation is better. So it was that kind of scenario. And so I think when I asked that question, it obviously triggered a lot. you know, and I think in our families there's a lot of things that have been spoken about, and I do think sometimes it's a protective measure, but it doesn't help in most scenarios, you know. And so I've always had this question, and even when she answered me, I felt the answers were not enough because I used to be scared of my mom. I think I am a bit now. I think like every black child, you know, there's a certain level of that fear of your parent, that there's still some things I wouldn't confront, because not because I'm not ready, but I know where my mom is at the moment, and I think it's just wise to leave them for now, and trust and wait. And if they never get answered, it's okay. And so then as I came to East London, I mean, I was amongst families that had father figures, and that was very weird for me, you know, because yes, there's grandfather, uncles, and a stepdad here, but you know, family structure, nuclear family, and that wasn't, you know, that was something I was not familiar, and I would cringe, you know, amongst men. It was only like a recent, maybe like 5-6 years ago, when I started being comfortable. Even there's some men that I'm like, you know, but I there's a story I keep telling myself that gumdu, you know, at the end of the day, and it's been even hard to sort of just know how to behave, you know. Even sometimes with my partner now, I just don't know if I'm respecting him enough, because sometimes I do have a big mouth on me. So it's one of those things where it's things I need to learn, because I've never really had a grade for like, how do you respect a man, you know. And I've had, like, you know, several clashes with men, but anyway, so this quest in my heart kept nudging, and I remember sitting in my flat, and so I was just messing on the guitar, you know, to use my usual thing that I do. My sofa was facing like a big window, and outside the window there was this huge tree. I don't know what kind of tree it is, but it was a huge tree, and it was such a beautiful view. And I just started writing, you know. I started strumming, do do do, yeah, bum bum bum, and then the words, just that song, I actually wrote it in one sitting, which is hardly the case for most songs that I've written. So I started being like, Kutheni ungachong, ungabethi nocingo, ungabhali nencwadi, tato ndizalayo. And then chorus, kodwa kunamsebenzi, ndiwe ndivuka nomama, kwaye ndiyokozela kungenxa yokwenza kwakhe. And I remember, actually, because I recorded myself, and I remember after listening to it, I cried, you know, because that stage I had started sort of wanting closure, because for the previous 4-5 years, I wanted to, I was going back and forth. Do I want to meet this man? Because I mean, he was here in the Eastern Cape, you know, but he never made means. And so that makes a statement. That makes a huge statement, you know, when someone could actually make means because they're around. It's not like, you know. And then I was starting to have closure. But later on, I realized that you can't have closure unless you know the truth. And so I sang the song. It sort of comforted me, but I saw also how it resonates with other people. You know, back then my friend would look across the room and men were crying because of that song, you know. And I remember a guy approaching me and saying, your song actually made me go and make things right with the mother of my kids, and I want to be present, you know. And that's the, you know, that's the gift of song. And so what also I realized was that I'm going to talk later about, you know, therapy, because something regarding my past relationship triggered me going to therapy, and then I found out that actually it's been me all along with father issues, you know. And just, you know, with that song, there's still times where I cry, you know, when I sing it. I remember National Arts Festival 2 years ago when I performed there. At the rehearsal, you know, not at the performance, at the rehearsal, we started singing it and I couldn't continue. I just started weeping, you know. And I think there's just certain things that come up, certain emotions that sometimes I can't explain, that are brought about by the song, depending on also what state I'm in. You know, as I told you earlier, that I can't, I cannot finish a week without crying. I have to cry. For me, it's stress reliever. You know, tears for me, I think they do cleanse. And so with that song, then I it's part of my EP. It's recorded. You guys can go and have a listen. It's called Kutheni. But what I would like to, I feel like I'd also just bringing along the story that I think changed my life. In 2022, around October, it's like over a year now since that happened, I got a Facebook message. This is me in my early 30s. I got a Facebook message. So I knew some information about my dad. I knew his clan name. I knew his surname. And I got a message from this girl who has my father's surname and has, you know, I've never met my dad, but I know stuff about him. As I said, I see that she's got my dad's surname, and she's got my dad's clan name. That's how she's, you know, spelled out her name on her Facebook, you know, profile. So she sends me a request, and because I see that, and she's from the place, the town that my father is apparently from, and I message her. I was like, hi, can I help? And he's like, hi, Nombasa, is your mom so and so? My mom has been looking for you for years. Huh? And I'm like, years? Who could your mom be? And it's like, your mom is my dad's sister. I mean, sorry, my mom. She says, my mom is your father's sister. We're cousins, and her name is so and so, and your father's name was so and so. Your father's name is so and so. And in my head, I'm like, my heart starts just pounding. At this stage, I'm like, no ways. What on earth is going on? What could they be wanting? You know. And so then I realized that, okay, so what's next? And she was like, please give me your number so I can pass it to my mom. She'll contact you. And just I think the way the thing was treated, you know, she never called. So I was very confused as to when she's actually going to make contact. And you know, when it's something to do with your father that you've never met, you know, it starts, you know. And so, but then she starts conversing with me anyways, and she tells me, and she starts posting pictures of her aunt, of her mom, sorry, apparently my aunt, and her, some of her cousins. I mean, I can see the resemblance. I'm like, there's no denying that this is my family. But funny enough, she's not posting my dad. You know, she's not posting pictures of my father. And at this point, I'm getting anxious and asking her, do you have pictures of him? You know, because I've never seen him, ever, you know. And so she's hesitant, and she's now hesitant, and I'm like, and she's like, no, I'll ask it. She tells me that she says to me, I'll ask it home. And immediately something doesn't sit well with me, because I surely, you know, at family gatherings, you know, people take pictures, you know, a selfie with your uncle, it goes without saying, you know. And so in my curiosity, I go onto Google. It's probably never a good thing. And I Google my dad's full name, and I'll never forget, like, literally, he was under deceased. He was under archives, you know, deceased archives. And I was like, okay, maybe this is a joke. And it had said that he passed on in 2003, you know. In 2003, I was in grade 10. I was in a boarding school in Butterworth somewhere, you know. And it was very, yeah, I didn't know what to do with myself. But first, I got a grip on myself, and I realized that, okay, this could not be true. Just verify with her. So I go back to her. I'm like, listen, you were not getting back to me about the pictures with my dad, and I've just Googled this, you know, is he really gone? Is he no longer, you know? And he's like, yeah, he passed on a while ago. I'm sorry, I was gonna let my mom convey the news to you. Like, it's almost 20 years later. It's a bit, you know, too late. Sure, I cannot tell you the mixed emotions of that. Sorry, I'm getting emotional, but it's almost as if, you know, someone just took the wound I thought I had healed from. You know, it's almost like over the years, it was band-aid. There was a band-aid over it, and all of a sudden now the rot, everything is just coming up, and it's, you know, salt is just being rubbed on it, and I'm helpless. You know, I was helpless. I even had to go back to therapy because of that, you know. And it hurt. I think I'm still even healing from it now, you know, because also the way they treated the situation, my father's family, was not pleasant. They're very nonchalant about it. And then now all of a sudden I got SMSs from, you know, messages on Facebook from random aunts who are like, hi Nombasa, I'm also one of your aunts, by the way, you know. And I even made efforts, you know, as a bigger person, to make plans to meet with them so I can get clarity of what they were looking for, because it also sounded as if there were like issues around his estate and whatnot. But, you know, I actually recently decided to let it go. It's not worth it. So sorry, that's Kutheni. And I feel like Kutheni has sort of unraveled itself. Like now, I mean, I'll talk later maybe more about the feelings I had and what I actually in depth went through. I feel like that situation sort of just redefined Kutheni in certain ways. And yeah, later on I guess I'll tell you about the grief and everything that sufficed, and just how I'm navigating it still, because I don't think you ever, you know, finish grieving. I think it's an ever-going thing. But that's Kutheni. That's a place I wrote it from. I'm sharing it because it's one of the closest songs in my heart, and I think I have a vision of having a country or having a world that doesn't get to experience fatherlessness. Yes, I know we're in the world. We'll never be in a perfect world until, you know, we reach heaven. But I think there are strides to be made. There are communities to be built to father children. So yeah, didn't mean to get emotional, but yeah. Thank you for watching. See you later.